party is this? What is happening? Like, I thought it was a regular party and just he and I were meeting and no one else was having these weird meetings. So I saw this, I saw a bunch of look like models and old people, which I thought that they maybe were recruiting for events. Like, I don't know. I thought it was a casting call. I had no idea what was going on at this party. Well, hello there. Welcome to another episode of Let's Be Frank with me, your host, Molly Sky Brown, and her crazy stories. So in this episode, I am going to tell the 2001 Epstein party story that a human trafficker brought me to an Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Trump prostitution modeling matchmaking party on Palm Beach Island at Jeffrey Epstein's place. Yeah, it's crazy. So I'm going to tell this story. First, I'm going to touch my nose. Okay. I'm trying to think where this mother starts. I guess it starts shortly after Dargan abducted and raped me. Hello, doggy. So in 2000, a producer, and that's a grandiose enhancement, a lame AV company owner who thinks he's more powerful and special than he truly is, lives in our area. And I met him in 2000 when I was in college. I just said this in my last little one-off episode with the bullshit debutante ball of Dargan Watts and how I came to meet him through an MTV event with the Backstreet Boys when they were releasing their comic book. I don't even think I have told this part. So this is what Donna Wright wanted me to do. I was working as her assistant at the time for free. Have I told you how much I get to work for free? So I was working for her for free at the time. I was interning, volunteering as her assistant because I'd been an assistant many times. Starting in high school, I was the assistant and office manager for a recording studio. And I got to sing some stuff there. I got to record some stuff for myself, record some stuff for other people. I got to be in charge of really cool clients that would come in, like Gladys Knight came through. And I had to prepare the environment for her and the multi area where they kind of hang out and the client hangs out and stuff. I mean, we had not Clint Eastwood, wrong word. Clint Eastwood he was the mayor of our town when we lived in Carmel. We would have Burt Reynolds is what I meant to say. Burt Reynolds would come in, Dom DeLuise back when All Dogs Go to Heaven was a cartoon TV show. They would come in and record their stuff at Echo Beach, the recording studio that I worked at in high school. So I met this photographer when I was in college. I was getting back into singing. I sang for him and he was like, "Oh my God, you should totally be singing." And I was like, "Yay, I would love to. I love singing." So he introduced me to Donna Wright. And I was like, I'm really not a pop artist. I'm a classically trained vocalist. My coach wanted me to do opera, but that wasn't really my style. So I really wanted to do musical theater. And I love singing like Disney character voices in musical theater. So I was excited to get back into the singing stuff again. So this was fall of 2000, sometime in August. And so Donna Wright, I was over at her house one day and she was telling me about an event that she was coordinating with the Backstreet Boys, with MTV and Say What Karaoke to unveil at the time, the Backstreet Boys were unveiling a comic book where they were all superheroes and it went absolutely nowhere. They did nothing with it. They didn't even show up at the event on time. So the whole thing, my part all got scrapped, but hear me out. This is what was supposed to happen. So Donna Wright tells me that the event is this: the boys will come to Hard Rock Live in Orlando, and they're going to be debuting their comic book with Stan Lee. Stan Lee's not there though. And that they're going to be in their costumes like their superhero identities and be revealing them to the public for the first time. And I was supposed to be there and Say What Karaoke host David Holmes was hosting the event back when Say What Karaoke was a thing, and that he was hosting that. And I was supposed to be a plant in the audience that they were going to call on. So people were going to think that I had nothing to do with the show or didn't know anyone, and I had to use my acting skills. And that they were going to randomly pull me from the audience to come up and sing with the Backstreet Boys, which is so funny because I didn't know their shit. I didn't know their music. I wasn't a fan. I was a musical theater nerd, so I really was not a huge fan of boy bands. And I didn't trust Hollywood and most of the industry and whatever. You know, the boy band stuff is all about selling sex to kids. So I just wasn't a huge fan. And so I had to learn all the songs really quick. And my roommate at the time loved the Backstreet Boys. So I borrowed her album and was like, oh, I got to know all these songs. And I can't remember the song I was supposed to come up and sing, but the boys were going to sing, and then they were going to call someone randomly from the audience to Say What Karaoke to invite a fan up to sing. And whoa, lo and behold, this fan can sing. How crazy. So that's what was supposed to be happening. And I was supposed to be that rabid fan in the audience as the plant. And then it got later and later and later and later, and the boys never arrived in time for all the fun stuff to happen. And the fans were getting really annoyed. And so the guys showed up super late. They were not in their costume. They ended up showing up to the venue so late that we had to scrap the whole Say What Karaoke thing. And then the guys just went on stage and sang in their regular street clothes. It was so dumb. And I have pictures with a bunch of the boys, and I have pictures from the audience as well, from where I was supposed to be a plant. I took some pictures, and you can see the guys are not in their costume whatsoever on my blog post where I talk about all these predators that I got the luxury of meeting. So after the fact, after the show, I went back to the green room, which is down in the basement of the Hard Rock Live of the venue, back down in lower levels, and was hanging out down there. And might have been even before the show started. I was obviously, I had to hang out back there because I was considered the talent. And it was hard to get over to there too. So I remember being parked in handicap behind the building, which you really weren't allowed to do. And I was. My handicap placard got me a lot of perks. People used to like going to amusement parks with me because I didn't have to wait in any lines. I could always get the VIP fast pass for free. So being handicapped have its perks. And the girl that I brought that day, my best friend, drove with me. I thought we drove in my car, her and I, with my handicap placard, and we got to park right behind the venue. So it was really nice. We had like VIP parking. Otherwise, you have to park like way across and walk over, however that happens. But that didn't have to be the case for me. So I remember being down in the green room area, the downstairs, and meeting the guys, the Backstreet Boys, and then this guy Dargan, this producer guy, was kind of just hanging around. I met David Holmes, was hanging out down there as well. And I thought for a minute the guy knew my friend who was with me, my friend Tiffany. And then he just put himself in the picture. The three of us trying to take a picture, me, Tiffany, and David Holmes. And all of a sudden, this guy Dargan puts his arm around my friend and is suddenly in the picture. And I'm like, I asked my friend, I was like, do you know him? And she was like, no, I figured you did. And I was like, no, I haven't had the luxury. So then after that, he started talking to me, Dargan, telling me that he can get me singing gigs within his company, that he hires Grammy award-winning artists all the time. And I was like, I'm not a Grammy award-winning artist though. And then he laughed and was like, yeah, but there's plenty of work for you. So he was leading with that. And then he was telling me how pretty he thought I was. And I don't know, I think he made some sort of comment about us dating or something like that, or me being, I don't know, his type or something. Red flag number one. But, I'm always so used to hearing that. I've heard that from every adult who has scouted me within the industry, male, and most times the females were behaving. I had two female agents that were always warning me of predators and people exploiting children in the industry. But it was like, I didn't know what the fuck exploit meant as a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old. I had no idea. Now as a 43-year-old, I'm like, no, that's what all those words mean. I know definitions of things that as a teenager and a child, I was like, I'm not sure if I'm reading this right. So anyway, back to my story. So back to the Hard Rock Live. So I'm downstairs in the basement area. The show ends, and I knew Donna Wright. And I met Donna Wright through a photographer who was trying to get me back in the business. And she's the one who got me that gig to see how I tested with the audience, see how I sang and how I did. And then go from there. And then the whole thing was scrapped and it didn't end up working out anyway. So, and then within a few days, I saw that Dargan dude and he abducted me from our business dinner, took me to his house, insisted I come inside. I offered to wait in the car because I'm handicapped, not easy to walk around. And nope, he demanded that I come inside, that it was going to be a good 20 minutes, that he had business he had to do, and that I should come inside and get comfortable. So I came inside, was going to wait downstairs. That's when he tells me his office is upstairs and to come wait in his office. So I follow him up the stairs to his office, and we get to the doorway of his office. And this is when he suddenly tells me about his bed that I don't expect to be seeing in his office. So he tells me he wants me to see his bed, this disgusting ornate bed, and that it's like an actual king's bed. It was like all engraved, all this wood. It was gross. So he opens the door, and that's when I find out his bedroom is his office, or his office is his bedroom, or whatever bullshit he was telling me to get in there and believe him. So I was waiting in the doorway, and he was telling me to come inside and get comfortable and sit on the bed and take a closer look at the bed. And I was like, no, I'm good. And staying in the doorway, he was like, no, come. I want to show you the bed. You have to see it. It's so amazing. I'm like, dude, how many times do I have to tell you no before I guess I'm the asshole? I hate to just assume men are all rapists, because this is a man I met at a legitimate MTV event that helped and has an organization and is incorporated and has a talent license that I've recently reported, you son of a bitch. I'm figuring he doesn't abduct women and rape them all the time, or I'd hear it in the news. People would tell me, don't talk to Dargan. So I came over, sat on his bed. I could recreate the whole thing in a movie if someone wanted to 3D recreate it. Facing the wall, I was on the right side of the bed. Come over here, facing the wall. I sit down. The minute I sit down, literally lays on me, starts making out with me, touching me, caressing me, and before I know it, he's putting himself inside of me, raping me. And I'm trying to push him off me. No, trying to be really nice about it. No, you've misread me. And there's no obeying that. No, it's he took my hands and pinned them above my head. Oops, wrong side. And hold on, I'm shutting. Pinned them above my head. And the only reason I can even say what happened and not be crying hysterically is because I've been in trauma therapy for the past year and a half now, talking about this once, if not twice, a fucking week, so that I can process it and stop wanting to kill myself, because I don't know what to do with all of this. I haven't survived, okay? I think that's a very weird term to say that someone has survived something, because I don't feel like this is surviving. So anyways, pushing him off, no. He takes my hands and puts them above my head and pins me down. And that's when I faced the wall. And he took his other hand and continued to take off my clothes, which I believe I had pants on at the time. I usually wore pants. Took those off, slid them down, started to put himself inside of me. And with that same hand that he was moving himself into me, started rubbing my clitoris. And that's when I started crying and begging him to please stop. And he did not. And he penetrated me. And while I was crying, he began to kiss my face. I mean, he's literally huge. He's a huge motherfucker. Big blob. And you know you are. You can look up pictures of you. It's an accurate assessment. Because I'm sure he wants to destroy me for defamation. For an accurate assessment of your looks. Okay? So he was a gigantic man, laid on me face to face while I'm crying. He's kissing me and kissing my tears and telling me how beautiful I am and how pretty I am. And I just disassociated into the wall. I just looked away and looked into the wall, and then he finished. And then he got up, and I laid there in shock and trembling. And on top of it, I'm handicapped. And anytime that I have sex, it always throws my hips off. So, and it still does. So it's one of the reasons I probably would never make a good prostitute. And one of the reasons I didn't want to have a lot of sex. I'm fragile. So I laid there, and then he walked off to my left and walked into his, I guess, a bathroom, came back and wiped his shit off of me. I say shit, but he didn't shit on me. He came on me, wiped it off of me, destroying evidence, destroying a crime scene, because I'm the crime scene, and cleaned me off. And oh my God, I honestly don't remember what happened after that point. I don't know how I got home. He drove me home. He suddenly said we had to reschedule dinner, and he took me home. And excuse me, within the next year, I had flunked out of college. I was super agoraphobic. I was terrified. I didn't know how to report someone for stuff like that because I didn't want to get in trouble for false reporting if I found out that what he did was totally legit and allowable. I've had this talk with a bunch of different people, and then I'll get into my Epstein story. I'm sorry about the tangent, but I've had this conversation with a lot of people, a lot of survivors. The terms that we're told that are the crimes that were committed against us, like sexual battery, I didn't feel battered after that. So at that time, now I'd be like, fucking report everything and you can figure out if it's a crime or not. But at the time, I thought reporting that Dargan raped me could be misconstrued if they want to blame me for whatever reason, make it seem like I seduced him or I agreed to the whole thing or whatever his bullshit defense is, or his version that he's telling people or telling himself or would tell law. I was very afraid of false reporting and getting into trouble for misunderstanding sexual advances that I was not able to control. So I was incredibly submissive and dismissive in reporting because I did not want to be seen as the person who did something wrong. I mean, it would destroy me to believe that for someone to tell me that I deserved these rapes or that I did anything wrong. Okay, I was stone cold sober every time I've been raped. So I was scared that they were going to say I was part of the problem, because that's one of the biggest fears as a survivor, is that we're going to be told that we're a false reporter. So that was one of the reasons. So a year after Dargan raped me, I had fake graduated from college. I'd flunked out. I stopped going. I couldn't do it anymore. I was too scared to leave my house. And I started having a nervous breakdown around the anniversary of the rape. And I didn't even realize it at the time that it was the anniversary of the rape. But I wanted to kill myself. It was the first time I'd ever really, really, really wanted to kill myself, and was telling God to give me signs so that I could finish it if that's what my purpose was for this life. And that night I went to a church and they told me they were too busy. It was like 7:00 at night, and I knocked on some Catholic church. I was like, well, I married Jesus in second grade, ate his blood, drank his blood, ate his body, went to Catholic school for so many years. Maybe they'll help me. Don't they owe me? At this point, I knocked on the door and I crying, shaking, wanting to kill myself. I have a handful of pills, sleeping pills, and I have like a bottle of sleeping pills, and I have crackers. And the woman looks at me and is like, yeah, we're busy. I was like, you guys suck. She was like, we're in a meeting. Can you come back? And I was like, no, actually, I can't. And I just looked at her like, I can't believe you're turning me away right now. And then I'm like, you suck, God. Like, you really want me to fucking kill myself? So then I went into their playground. I sat on the swings and was like, God, do you really want me to kill myself? Because I would like to not have to do that and be vindicated. Like, I didn't deserve this, and you know it. I haven't deserved any of this. All I've done is sing and honor you, and I'm getting this instead. And it was very, very, very confusing. These people that would hurt me and wouldn't get in trouble, and then I am silenced or in trouble or the troublemaker. So it was really fucking with my head. So, long story short, that evening, I talked myself into go seeing a movie. I scared my family, my biological family. This is before I was married and had a child. Obviously, it's my senior year of college, or following graduating. And my brother came up from Palm Beach to come get me in Orlando because I was going to UCF at the time. And he met me at the emergency room. I think another girlfriend brought me to the emergency room. I don't know. The whole night was a blur. I just wanted to die. I just was so exhausted and tired, and I just wanted to sing without sucking a dick or being. Um, I don't know how you sing Disney songs with a dick in your mouth, but I didn't want to find out. So I tell my brother, who tells my dad and my mom, my dad was still alive at the time, that I want to go into like a psych hospital. They recommend that I do that at the emergency room. And I was like, yes, I need help. I know what my problems are. I knew I had the child molestation stuff. I knew I had other sex predators, this Dargan guy, and was in abusive relationships with boyfriends that were lying and abusive. So it was like this pattern repeatedly in my life of these people. So I really wanted to get inpatient help. So I agreed to. So my brother brought me down to Palm Beach County, and I stayed with him. He was going to a school in Palm Beach, college in Palm Beach at the time, I think Palm Beach Atlantic. And went down there. Oh, no, he'd graduated. Duh, if I had graduated, it means he had. So he was down in Palm Beach. I stayed with him, and then the next day he brought me to Columbia Hospital, and I think my dad met us there. And I was just like twitching and upset and very, very triggered, and just I really did not want to live anymore. I didn't see a future. I felt like it had all been taken and destroyed and pissed on to death. And I didn't want that. So I committed myself to Columbia Hospital on a treatment basis of being assessed the next day by the psychiatrist and getting an assessment, getting diagnosed, talking, getting some therapy, and figuring things out. And I'm thinking that they're going to help me report and expose my crimes that have been committed against me. That's what I was just talking to my husband about last night, the documentary that we're working on, one of them, we're working on several, is I trusted the mental health community. They told me that they were going to put me on psych drugs temporarily. I mean, that's how they're advertised, that it's a temporary thing in conjunction with therapy. 20 years later, I was still on the drugs with intermittent therapy that I guess wasn't taking notes, wasn't reporting anything, wasn't connecting any dots. I would tell them, I mean, just God, the screening process is such bullshit. It completely ran out my clock. I needed someone to explain to me that what I survived was sexual abuse and that I should absolutely be reporting it. And instead, I was medicated and talked therapy to death until I finally had a psychotic break and broke through the meds and had the most terrific, horrific flashback I've ever encountered. My entire room changed. I was back in that pedophile's room for when I was 9. And that's when I got the diagnosis of PTSD. They said I should never have been on any medication because there's no fucking pill for PTSD. And yet I would tell these people what I was there for. And they would be like, well, here, let's write a letter to your molester. Let's write a letter to your abuser instead of reporting them or finding out who they are. So looking back, I mean, it's a huge red flag that I'm grateful to expose now because that's horrific. Then statutes of limitations should not exist. I mean, it's like a 1, 2-year, 4-year, 8-year window. I don't even know because it changes everywhere, every county, every state. I mean, every crime. There should be no statutes of limitations for rape. So I get into this place. I commit myself. In Florida, it's called a Baker Act. Police can initiate it if you're a danger to yourself or whatever. So, I mean, mine wasn't mandated. Mine was, I committed myself. Mine was voluntary. I guess it is voluntary. Yeah. So I volunteered myself and get introduced to my roommate, Lisa Villeneuve, who I learn is a human trafficker later on, born into it, good friends with Ghislaine and Epstein. So I meet this girl in my room. I come into my room. The orderly brings me in and sets me up. And I remember she's sitting on her bed. And as soon as the orderly leaves, and he says something like, you know, I expect to see you in group therapy today or whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm looking forward to therapy. I want help. And so he goes out of the room and she says, like, she immediately starts telling me there are rapists here, that they will rape you in your sleep. They will drug and rape you in your sleep. And I'm like, oh my God, please stop. You're scaring the shit out of me. She's telling me, don't leave the room, that everything that you tell them, they'll use against you. And I was like, who's they? And use against me for what? What am I doing? And then she was like, don't go to group therapy. They're just spying on you and they're going to use it against you, and all this paranoia stuff. So I was scared, honestly. I trusted her. And I think I went to like one therapy thing, and it was the first time I ever addressed the whole pedophile situation in my adult years, with real inpatient therapy, because I'd been seeing, the first time I got drugged was in college. I think I was 19 years old. And yeah, they just will drug you, give you antidepressants. What are you depressed about? Oh, I'm in an abusive relationship and I've survived sexual abuse. Well, here, take this. How about what the fuck happened? Can I help report? I mean, okay. And then, so take this pill and then what? And then justice? No. So I don't go to therapy. I don't get much out of this place. So let me tell you. So the first night I'm there, at that place, going to sleep, I wake up to a man in our room, an orderly, nurse, whatever, by himself. And he's on top of me and he's got my arm in a, the vice thing. And he tells me he's taking my blood. He's doing routine blood work. And he's giving me a sedative to help me sleep. And this is before I really trusted my roommate, what she was telling me. And so I was like, so I thanked him. Like, thank you for taking care of me. I've been to 5 facilities at least since then, because the desire to kill myself has not waned. And I went through that twice. Didn't stick, but I still did. And so I have voluntarily, and also when you try to commit suicide, it's an automatic Baker Act, which, okay. The other facilities I've ever been in, I have never, ever had my blood taken or given medication or had any kind of medical attention without me being conscious and lucid and signing off on the interaction and the medication. And that was not the case. I woke up to this man putting needles in me without my permission. And now looking back, considering no other facility that I've ever been in has ever done anything like that. And I was in like the fucking pedo heaven of Florida, although I think Miami is too, but Palm Beach is really, really bad. And I was in a pedo hospital apparently. So so I get out of the place. I end up staying there for a few days. I end up making friends with this girl, Lisa, because I didn't really know what her story is, but I knew she'd been sexually abused also. She was telling me that she had similar abuses to my own, and she was there for the same reason. And I was like, oh, yay, someone else, camaraderie, strategy, what do we do? So we became friends. I went back up to school, went back up to college at UCF in Orlando, which is about a 2-3 hour drive. And she was like, do you ever come down to Palm Beach? And I said, yeah, my dad lives on Singer Island. My parents are divorced. My mom lives, in Orlando now, which she doesn't anymore, but at the time she did. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I really didn't go down to visit my dad. He was remarried, and it was just jarring to go off to college. And then my parents got divorced, and I was like, alrighty, so my family doesn't exist anymore, and my house and all my stuff. And so I just kind of stayed away from it all. And I didn't think his wife really liked me. So most people didn't like me and don't. And okay. So I just kept my distance and really didn't come down there. But so Lisa was like, do you ever come down to Palm Beach? I'd like to see you. I'd like to spend time with you. And I was lonely. Absolutely. And that's what traffickers look for. They look for lonely people who are broken and want love. And not that I'm really blaming Lisa for, all this shit, because she was born into it and horribly forced, apparently, by Stockholm syndrome at some point, that you just kind of go along with the program. What choice do you have? So I agree to come down. I want to say that it was like October. It was after 9/11 that I went to the hospital. So it was October of 2001, I think. So I was going to be back down Thanksgiving, Christmas. It was a holiday that I came down to see her, but I can't remember the exact date. So I drive down to go see her. I stay at my dad's on Singer Island for a few days, and I hang out with Lisa. It had to be some sort of holiday because it felt really casual, and that we had multiple days to spend together. So it might have been Thanksgiving that I hung out with her a bit, and then Christmas when I came down again that we ended up at the Epstein party together. But I'm not sure exactly, because again, I didn't know what was happening when it was happening. So it's hard for me to remember all these things when it's like, I don't know what was happening. So why make a note of my recall of the date and time and what I'm wearing? And so now I look back and I'm like, holy fuck, I was at an Epstein party. So I am either down there for Thanksgiving or Christmas, and I'm getting to know her and hanging out at her house. And she was the most interesting person because she was paranoid, absolutely paranoid and psychotic, like a delightful psychotic energy within herself. And me, the comedian, I would make her laugh and then just try to make myself laugh with what I was seeing. So I remember coming over to her place. She had a huge black SUV. First of all, she had a fucking humongous mansion. Had a humongous mansion, at least 2 stories in Lake Worth, and there was a carport with a carriage house attached to it. She had servants, like butler, housekeeper. There were staff there. And I remember the first time I went over there, oh yeah, it was right after 9/11, because they were freaking out. She kept telling me that her dad and her family were concerned that they were going to get anthrax sent to the house. And I was like, you're on that list? Like, people know who you are? And she was telling me her dad was some elite French dignitary, and that he would be a target for that. And then she was showing me this entire cabinet full of Cipro. And she was saying that that's for if they get a biological warfare attack. And I was like, what is happening? And then her dad was in the kitchen too. And older guy, balding with gray hair, shorter. If I'm remembering him correctly, I rarely got to see him because she'd keep me confined in her gigantic bedroom that had a fucking fireplace in it. So she would tell me not to go around in her house. She would tell me which guest bathroom I could go to the bathroom in, because she said every room has a video camera. Every room has cameras in it. That there's people watching her and spying on her. And I wasn't sure what to believe. I kept telling her, did you see them install anything? And she said, no. And I said, then there might not be anything. I said, have you thought about that? And then she was, like, don't patronize me. So then I would look around the room and be like, fuck everybody on the cameras if anyone's here. And she would just laugh. And it was hysterical. She would, oh, Molly, you are delightful. And I think I went by Sky at the time. So she might've called me Sky, but whatever name I went by at the time. Oh, you are delightful. And then I would tell her, because she'd flip through Forbes magazines on her gigantic bed. and look for billionaires to marry. And I was like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? So she was telling me that she wanted the heir to Gillette. And we flipped through the Forbes magazines, and she hated Ava Dubbin. I remember her pointing out to Ava Dubbin and her husband, and her being really, really catty about the information, saying that she didn't think she deserved him. And wasn't she prettier? And Molly, what type of billionaire do I deserve? And I would tell her, you shouldn't trust a billionaire. They'll rape and kill you. And she was like, oh, you're right. Molly, you are Einstein. That's what she'd say. You are Einstein, Molly. You are so brilliant. You are so smart. You are a genius, is what she would tell me. Because she would ask me what kind of guy I wanted, what kind of billionaire I wanted. And I said, the only billionaire I trust is one with a foot in the grave. And she would laugh and say, oh my God, you are so brilliant, Molly. You are a genius. That's what I should look for too. Because the Gillette guy was, I guess, like a young bachelor. And I was like, that guy's going to cheat on you and beat the fuck out of you and leave you. And she was like, oh, you think so? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, well, he doesn't even know you right now. So like, why would he want to marry you and have any respect for you and like cherish you and worship you and be nice to you? And she was like, these are all good points. So I remember her telling me that she thought her laptop or her computer or something was bugged. And my brother does IT. He's like an IT genius, do software and data stuff. So he was always the person we called whenever a computer was acting the fuck up. And so he came over to her house and worked on her computer. And he said she was super duper weird. I think he met Lisa like at least once or twice. He might have met her at Columbia Hospital. I think I might have gotten out before her. So my family referred to Lisa as Loony Lisa. That is how my family knew of her. Anytime they met her, they thought she was nuts. And she was, but speaking the truth, she was truthful, but she was nuts because trauma is traumatizing. Trauma is, it breaks your brain. It causes you to be paranoid. And especially if you're being gaslighted and people are like, oh no, there's no trauma happening. Then yeah, you get really fucked up. Yeah, sorry, I don't have hair and makeup, so I'm going to do it live. So my family referred to her as Loony Lisa. So I was over there with the whole Cipro and the anthrax shit and getting to know the family. And their mother was like super young for having 20-year-olds. And she would tell me that her brothers were rapists and to stay away from them. And again, telling me what bathroom to use. So one day I'm over there and she tells me that this guy, I think I just remembered what I was wearing to the Epstein party. She tells me that this guy, Kurt, really wants to meet me. And I'm like, who's Kurt? I don't understand how he wants to meet me if I've not met him. And she said, I showed him a picture of you. I showed him your modeling headshot. And I was like, from when I was 15. And she just started cackling. And she said, he wants to meet you. He doesn't like his current girlfriend situation. And I said, well, then why doesn't he break up with her? And Lisa goes, it's more complicated than that. And he said that she's a stick in the mud. And I was like, again, I'm not following. Why can't he just break up with her? So she tells me that he has a contract. In order to get his inheritance, he has to have like a cover girl. Oh, makeup. You and your sex trading industries, they need like a cover girl. They need a cover story for him in order to get his inheritance from his Campbell Soup parents, because Kurt at the time was literally fucking doing heroin and coke and living on his parents' yacht. He had long bleached blonde hair. And the day I met him, he had orange makeup on, covering a big old zit on his forehead at the Epstein party. So Lisa starts telling me about this guy as she's been grooming me to be trafficked the times that I've known her to. Well, and to her, she might not think she's trafficking me. She might think she's matchmaking, which I wasn't understanding what the service truly was until I was knee deep in the water. So she tells me that this guy, Kurt, really wants to meet me and that he's going to be at this party on Palm Beach Island and she's going to bring me, and that he'll be on his parents' yacht. And I'll be meeting him. And so she explains to me a little bit about the contracts, because I asked her, what all would be entitled with my participation in the contracts. I said, I'm not going to be a prostitute. said, I'm not having sex with someone, because she was telling me that based on what I was willing to agree to was how much I would be compensated out of what he gets out of his inheritance. And I was like, all of this sounds slightly illegal. And I wasn't sure if it was, because it looks like some really, really rich people are playing. And, like I stated with Dargan, how are these members, productive members of our society, if they're breaking the laws blatantly and we're just like, no, they're not? At some point we're like, yes, they are. And we have to do something about it. Okay. So I am learning from Lisa that I'll have to sign a contract with this Ghislaine Maxwell woman, that there's a woman, a madam, that I'd have to sign this particular contract with. And I would get a copy of the contract. And I was telling her, there's no way I can commit to this without my family literally like, what is happening right now? Because she was saying, if I needed to be at certain situations or gatherings or events or celebrations, that I was required to pretend to be his girlfriend. And I was like, this is starting to sound like a job, which I wasn't totally against if it was a legitimate job to be someone's girlfriend. I mean, I was considering that in college. People, I charged men to go on dates with me so that no sex was involved. I had contracts. And I would give a copy to my mother with our GPS location and address of where we're supposed to be in case I'm abducted and raped, because I stopped trusting men. And if you wanted to go out with me anywhere, then I needed a contract. I needed your ID. I needed you to pay me $50 an hour. And you weren't to assault me. It said in the contract, no sex involved. And I met a couple of people that way. Was a date for some insecure rich men for holiday parties and stuff like that. And it was the same. I tell them, this is not an escort service. It's a dating service. Because I don't just go on dates with men because they end up abducting and raping me. And I'm like, didn't want to do that. So at least this way, my mother knows where I am. I have a contract with your signature. I have money from you and your credit card and the location that we're going. And you've signed that you're going to behave. So I thought it was very smart. So I was all for Lisa and her situation if it was on the up and up. So I agreed to go to this Epstein party. I know it's taken me forever to tell this story, but you know me, I have to paint a picture and interweave 4,000 other things into it at the same time. Oh God, so we don't even get to the Epstein party. I got to tell you before that too. So I get to Lisa's house the night of the Epstein party. We get into her black car, Escalade, whatever. It was a big black SUV. And we get down to Palm Beach, downtown Palm Beach, Clematis Street. And she says, we want to get a coffee. It's like 9:00 at night. And she said, let's get a coffee. And I was like, that sounds like a terrible idea. Like, I'm not going to sleep all night if I get a coffee. I'm very caffeine sensitive. I don't drink it. So we go to Starbucks, or we go to a coffee shop or something on Clematis on Palm Beach, right before the island. And we're at the coffee place, and Paris Hilton and her entourage walk by. And my friend was part of that entourage, a girlfriend that I've reconnected with now. She used to be like Paris Hilton's bodyguard. And I was like, I remember you that night. There was this one girl in the front who was like, get out of the way, get out of here. Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie are coming through. And I remember that because I remember coming out of the coffee shop and Lisa we both saw them coming, and I could hear her yelling, get out of the way. And I don't get out of people's way. I mean, first of all, I'm handicapped, so I don't move really quick. And then also, hi, no. I love saying no. So Lisa says, get out of the way, let's go back inside. Or she pushes me against the wall. And I was like, don't fucking push me against the wall. And then she's like, get out of the way. And I was like, I'm not going to get out of the way. And the girl was like, get out of the way. So we're up against this wall. And I'm like, I don't act like this. I don't get out of the way. So then Paris walks by, and I asked Lisa, I was like, is Paris going to be at the party? And she said, no, Paris doesn't come to these kind of parties. And I'm thinking, is it a high school party that she's not coming to? Like, what is this kind of party you're referring to? And so then she says, but her brother comes to these parties. I don't know how many brothers she has, but she mentioned brother comes to the party, that we might see her brother there. So I'm bummed that Paris Hilton's not going to come to the party, and Nicole Richie. So we get back into her car, and we're about to head over to the island, and we pick up this guy, Bobby Cox. And he's this tall, he looks like he's in his early 20s. and he's got a couple tattoos, and he just looks like kind of a douchebag. And he gets in the car, and I turn and I'm like, hey, I'm Molly. Nice to meet you. And I said, what do you do for a living? And I said, what do you do? You know, who are you? What do you do? And he says, oh, I'm a model scout. And I was like, what? I am a model. And I'm sure you've heard this on other podcasts of this part of the story. And I said, oh, I'm a model. And Lisa looks at me and she goes, not that kind of model scout. And I was like, what other kind of model scout is there? And she goes, he's a pimp. And I'm like, what? I didn't understand how a model scout is also a pimp, or that they're interchangeable. I'd been modeling since second grade. So it didn't make any sense to me. And I thought she was just pulling my leg. So I say, yeah, nice to meet you. And she basically says he's a pimp. And I'm like, I don't understand what that means. So then we get to Epstein's place and we pull into his driveway area, and she pulls off to the right. And we don't go in the front door of the house. We go into the right, around through the back to the pool. And I remember seeing the pool and the tiki torches, and there were a whole bunch of young girls talking to a whole bunch of old guys and everything in between. So I couldn't really read what kind of party I was at. I thought it was a high school party, but then there were so many adults there. And then I thought it was like a Palm Beach party, like a holiday party. So I wasn't really understanding what kind of party it was, or a private event. With models, living in Palm Beach County and I had a fake ID all in high school. Well, not all in high school. After I got abducted and assaulted by a cop after not drinking at a party, I got a fake ID and stopped going to high school parties because I didn't want to see that cop again. So I started hanging out with my other friend from a art school who also had fake ID. And we would go down to Palm Beach all the time and go to clubs. And I knew some of the club owners on Palm Beach Island, and they would let us in for free. And they loved that we would come to the club because we were fun and we didn't drink, and we brought in a crowd. So it was, I guess, I don't know, beneficial. It was fun. It was fun to go out and do that. So I had a fake ID and was used to coming down to Palm Beach, and we'd end up sometimes at really bizarre parties or events or situations because the rich are the rich and they do whatever they want, and you don't know what's going on until you know what's going on. And I was very naive, and I wanted to believe that people had the best intentions and were doing the best of things at all time. And I just really believed that people were doing good things. So we beeline past the pool, past the tiki torches to the boat slip. And my beau is waiting for me there on his, I guess, parents' yacht, which is not nice. It was not like a yacht. Like Ray Huizinga, when he wanted to take me to his friend's private island in the Caribbean when I was 17, his yacht was $80 million. This guy's yacht was like a station wagon falling apart, and it was his home now. So I get on the yacht. It's hard for me to get on. I think I had a skirt on and a tank top. I think I remember the outfit I was wearing at that event. I had on this like brown satin tank top. That was not a tank top. It was a pretty blouse, sleeveless blouse, with a big ruffle waist. And I think I had a jean skirt on. And I think I know what shoes I had on too. Because like I said, not everything fit me, and most shoes I couldn't wear. So I kind of have a little bit of a recall of what I could have been wearing that night. So I get onto the boat. I remember like holding on and the railing and stuff, because you don't usually get on a boat with heels. We had a boat, I never got on it with heels. I had flip-flops on, or barefoot. So those weird boat moves, when you get on it, it goes like that. So I remember coming onto the boat and coming around to the back of it and going in the doors. And I've got Lisa and this guy, Bobby, with me. And we go in and we go into the galley. I don't know what you call it, the back of the boat, open the doors and come in. And I see this guy Kurt that I've not met yet. And he's air guitaring. And he's air guitaring and like jumping up and down and literally ignoring me. And I was like, you know, I'm coming to meet you. Why are you still air guitaring? Like, why can't you just be normal? Be like, hey, Molly, it's so nice to meet you. Good. Literally ignored me. So I was like, no, I don't appreciate being ignored. Like, I'm not going to put up with an abusive relationship too. Like, this man is emotionally inept and having a relationship, I can see why he needs to work with someone with a contract. Rule 1, acknowledge the person in the room that you're meeting. So I get on the boat. He doesn't acknowledge me. He's completely ignoring me, and he's air guitaring. And I'm like, Lisa, let's go. I'm like, I don't think he's interested. And she's like, no, 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 he's very interested. And I was like, okay, because he's not. That's not how you behave then. And I said, well, I'm not interested. He's air guitaring and ignoring me. And she was like, oh, okay, okay. So then she goes over and tells Kurt, she was like, oh, Molly, meet Molly. And still, he's really not talking to me. And I'm looking at her like, I don't think he's into me. And she's like, no, 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 he really, really is. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be with someone who's this weird or this awkward. So she says, Molly, why don't you give him a massage? She says, Molly, can you give him a massage? And I think she had already prefaced and asked me about this because I took a massage course at Florida State. I wanted to be able to massage my husband properly someday and be the good wife. My older brother used to always tell me he wanted to marry a massage therapist, and that was a desirable quality in a wife. And I was like, noted. I want to make my husband happy one day. So I took massage at Florida State. So Lisa was like, Molly, why don't you give Kurt a massage? And I was like, oh my God, I totally know how to. Sure. So I stupidly get behind Kurt. She sits down Kurt on this, I think it was a bed. She sits him down on this. I think he was like sleeping in the galley. Sits him down on the bed. And then I get behind him and I'm on my knees and I start rubbing his back and stuff. And I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't fucking care. I don't even like this guy. And I'm like, and I don't even understand this situation, but I have to meet you before I understand the next step. So here we are. So I'm massaging him and I'm like, the energy doesn't feel good. I have a lot of respect for myself. I feel that I have worth and value and that I don't have to act like this. So I tell Lisa, I'm like, first of all, I tell myself, I'm like, well, what the fuck are you doing? You don't have to fucking do this. So I sit down next to him and I was like, Lisa, I'm not interested. And I'm like, he's not reacting and I'm not going to keep massaging him. And then she pulls me over to the drink cart. She says, Molly, come here. I want to talk to you. She pulls me over to this like drink cart across the boat and she starts making me a drink. And I tell her I don't drink. And she's like, what? And I said, no, I don't drink. And she was like, oh, just have one. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't want just one. I was like, what's going on? And she said, well, what do you think of Kurt? And I said, I think he's a goofball. And she just starts cackling and she starts losing it. Oh, you're so funny. She's like, oh, and you're so, what did she say? You're so bold. You're so brazen or whatever. I don't know if she even said that particular word, but she loved that I was like, no, he's not good enough. She thought it was hilarious that I wasn't taking the bait. And so she says, well, why don't we go home and regroup? And I'm like, why don't we go to the party? Like, what is this? What is happening? So she tells me that she goes, well, what kind of guy would you like? And I tell her again, someone with a foot in the grave is the only rich man I'll trust. And she's laughing and cackling again. And oh my God, you're so brilliant. You're so brilliant, Molly. You're a genius. And so we're done with the drink cart. And then Kurt says, is she cool? To which Lisa looks at him and says, no, she's not cool. And I said, yes, I am. I'm very cool. And then Lisa looks at me and she goes, no, he means for cocaine. Are you cool? Oh, no. She goes, he means for sex. Are you cool for sex? And I was horrified. I couldn't believe it. The man had not spoken to me or acted like he was interested in me whatsoever. And then now asking if I'm cool for sex, what Lisa was saying threw me off. I said, ew, no. I said, no, that's not what I meant. And then he said, no. He's like, I meant for cocaine. Is she cool for cocaine? And I was like, yeah, I'll take some cocaine. And then Lisa said, no cocaine for you. And I was like, so you're suddenly worried about me and protecting me and you're trying to drink, you're trying to get me to drink. You want me to meet this guy but cocaine's too far. That's crossing the line. Now you're my mom. So she's like, no cocaine for you. I'm not allowed to have the cocaine. I'm like, that's sad. I like cocaine. At least I did. When I could get it, I was not allowed anymore. My husband says no. But I digress from the narcotics. So we get off the boat. I'm telling Lisa, I'm going to the party. I'm not interested. We're going to regroup. We're going to pick a new bow for me. We're going to think about new things. So we get off the boat. I get off the boat. Lisa gets off the boat. Bobby and Kurt stay on the boat. I guess Bobby's there to console him at this point. there, you'll trick a different girl. And so I get off the boat with Lisa. We walk towards the house, and she's in a panic because I guess this doesn't happen very often, where people reject this shit and don't go along with it. And so I tell Lisa, I'm like, Lisa, I want to go inside. I want to go inside to the party. My hair's frizzing. I had blow dried it. I mean, it was Florida and outside, so my hair was like growing by the minute. And I was like, Lisa, come on, I want to go inside. This is silly. And she was telling me, do not talk to anyone else at the party. She said, everyone is having their own private interviews, so do not engage or initiate conversation with anyone. And I'm like, what kind of party is this? What is happening? Like, I thought it was a regular party and just he and I were meeting and no one else was having these weird meetings. So I saw this, I saw a bunch of look like models and old people, which I thought that they maybe were recruiting for events. Like, I don't know. I thought it was a casting call. I had no idea what was going on at this party. So I'm standing outside the house, and I'm in this back patio holding area. And I remember Bobby comes up and sits next to me because Lisa's inside. I'm demanding to come inside. And Lisa was like, let me talk to the hosts of the party and find out if it's okay if I bring you inside. And it's like, what do you mean it's okay if you bring me inside? I'm not following along. So she goes inside. I'm out on the patio with this guy, Bobby. And Bobby goes, what kind of guys do you like, Molly? Or Sky, whatever I was going by. What kind of guys do you like? And I said, I told Lisa the same. I said, one with a foot in the grave. And he was like, so an Anna Nicole Smith situation? I was like, yeah, absolutely. I said, as long as the guy can't chase me and grab me and pin me down and do anything mean to me, I'll hang out with him. And you can pay me. I'd be up for that. I said, anything else? No, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in the slightest in being some man's trophy wife that I have a contract with and who can abuse me and do all, I don't know, just no. So Lisa comes back out and she's pussyfooting around again that we can't come inside or we can come inside. And then finally she's like, okay, you can come inside, but don't talk to anyone here either. Don't go into any rooms. Don't talk to anyone and just stay with me. So we come into the house and we're coming through and I see one of these bedrooms is all illuminated red. And if you Google red rooms and red lights, apparently it has to do with prostitution, first of all, and then like satanic ritual and stuff like that too. So, because I remember talking to this, I was like, why is that room red? And she closed the door and she's like, oh, that's none of your business. Like, don't go in there. They're having their own meetings. And I was like, okay. So she closed that door. And while she was closing that door, I think she went to go find Bobby and left me there in the house. And was like, she said, don't go anywhere. And so I'm standing there and all of a sudden, I know it's Ghislaine now. Ghislaine Maxwell comes down the staircase and she's making an announcement to the whole room. It's like 10:30 at night. Like, it's not late. And she is coming down the stairs, making an announcement. She says that the whole party has been invited to Mar-a-Lago via personal invitation of Trump himself. And that the whole party is invited and everyone's moving over there. And they're literally pushing everyone out the door this moment. It's not, this is happening whenever you feel like it or in 10 minutes or whatever. It's happening now. Goodbye. And so I tell Lisa, I was like, oh my God, we're going to Mar-a-Lago? And she goes, who told you that? She said, who said we could, who told you that? And I said, that woman, she made an announcement to the entire room. And Lisa was like, no, she's not talking to us. That's not including us. And I said, she announced to the entire room. She said, everyone at the party was invited. And Lisa she doesn't mean us. And then Ghislaine walks by and I point to her and I said, she made the announcement. She said, everyone was invited. Because I couldn't believe she was telling me I couldn't go to Mar-a-Lago. Like, I've never been. I thought it was going to be good food, maybe better drinks that weren't full of alcohol and drugs. Now I know better. More of the same. And I thought there'd be like music and like entertainment and, good stuff happening. So Ghislaine touches my arm and she says, yes, everyone is invited, even you. And I was like, see, this lady, that lady. And Lisa goes, we're not going. She said, first she goes, they're just looking for prostitutes. And I'm like, what is going on here? And I said, I'm not a prostitute. And she said, I know, but they're only looking for prostitutes. And I was like, well, I don't think Donald can have sex with everyone at this party. So my odds are good. Like I didn't sense any danger. And then she goes, it's not safe. I said, what do you mean it's not safe? And she said, we'll go home and get ice cream and flip through new magazines. It was so funny. She said to get ice cream because she was constantly trying to control my weight. She's like, are you sure you should be eating that? You should be thinner. And I was like, was my mother calling you? So she says, we'll go get ice cream. We'll flip through new Forbes magazines and look for new options and talk about other bows, other options. And I told her, that I wanted to go to Mar-a-Lago. And she said, it gets rough quick. She said, it's not safe. It gets rough quick. And why would she say that if Trumpy Trump is so on the up and up? It gets rough quick. So I've talked to other survivors and they have told me that basically when I tell them my story, they're like, okay, that cart is when they drug you with the downer that you black out and then are raped and videotaped. And then they give you the Coke right after you take that so that it doesn't go into effect right away. And then we move into the party. I mean, not 5 minutes later, Ghislaine Maxwell is telling everyone we're going to the next venue, which is right down the road at a humongous place full of bedrooms. And it gets rough quick is the next thing I'm told. So what I've come to find out, and Lisa would always tell me that so she'd have all these random purses and clothes and stuff. And then other survivors of traffickers were telling me, oh yeah, the traffickers will steal stuff from the models, from the victims, and then resell them. And that was something she was doing. I kept asking her where she get her stuff from, all these designer purses and nice clothes and shoes and stuff. And she said she would steal them from her mother. And I was like, your mother is like 400 different sizes. This doesn't make any sense. And she'd sell them on eBay. So what I learned was these traffickers would either rob their victims blind, usually, that they would drug them and then give them an upper, take them to the next location where they were then videotaped being raped by their boyfriend and you signing your contract or them talking you into it at the next point saying that there's, that you fucked your boyfriend and they have video of it. They're going to blackmail you and coerce you. So I've been told repeatedly, I dodged so many bullets. And since I had already been hit by so many bullets, I thank God I was dodging more at that point. But now I'm just telling my stories. I told the story to Nancy Grace. I've been telling it to other producers with other productions focusing on Ghislaine Maxwell and exposing the modeling industry and the entertainment parts of the entertainment industry. And, working with the FBI. They're so fucking slow. They're so fucking slow. Ex-Department of Justice called and reached out. So, I mean, we'll all get out there. And I feel like I'm just so impatient. And I've been sitting on these stories for so long because I just did not know what was going on. And when I tried to get help, I was just drugged and gaslighted and not believed and just, we want you to be better. We want you to feel better. Okay, well, stop gaslighting me, address the problem, help me get justice. Let's get these fuckers off the street. And I bet I'll feel all better. Like, wow, let's test that theory. So this episode is getting long. Thank you for sticking with me. It was a weird event. Yeah, so, and thankfully I got some pictures of Lisa because I got engaged to a man I thought was a good catch, looked good on paper, was my first husband for a sneeze length. And she was supposed to be one of my bridesmaids and then was a no-show, but she came to my bridal shower at my future husband and my future husband's in-laws. And Lisa was like, she was poor. He was doing well-ish in the family, like $60K a year, which was fine by me. I can make my own money. And I just wanted someone who loved and supported and had a real job and wasn't being a weird piece of shit. But he had his own issues too. I found out he was married once before me and just so many lies. I kind of had a lot of lies. And before I knew it, I was terrified of him and sleeping in another bedroom until I could get out of there. But she came to the bridal shower at his mother's house and she brought me a $25 Balenciaga bag because she kept trying to entice me with really expensive gifts to get me to come back and talk to some of her beaux in this contract trafficking, matchmaking shit in Palm Beach with these elite predators or sad old men. I don't know. I have sympathy for some of them. So I ended up going, before I married my the guy, and Lisa came up. Anyway, let me finish that story. So Lisa comes to my bridal shower and she brings a handler with her. She tells me she has to get clearance. She has to bring a handler with her because I told her, I was like, you're a bridesmaid. Are you going to be able to come to my wedding? Like, I don't understand. What is all this red tape? Why can't you just come? She said her handler had to come with her and she might not be able to make it to my wedding. And I was like, then why did you agree? Like, I'm not understanding what's going on here. So she came up to my bridal shower. I was able to get some pictures of her and her handler. And I remember she was freaking out that we were taking pictures. And I kept telling her, you take pictures at events. Like, that's how this happened. That's how this works. And I kept telling her, I will never show anyone these pictures. Like, it's irrelevant. And now they're everywhere because now it's totally relevant and you can't hide forever. But I did go on one other date. She got me, before I went back up to school, she asked me if I would go to dinner with an older gentleman from Palm Beach. She said he had like a $2 million condo on Palm Beach Island. And I feel like, I'm trying to remember like where we ate. We ate at some supper club that was part of his building or something. God, I wish I could go figure out. Like, I'm trying to look in my mind, like, what did it look like when I sat at dinner with you? But we were in some sort of courtyard and his condo was like, he pointed to it, but then there was waiters and stuff. At first I thought it was a senior community, but then he told me it wasn't. And it was some sort of supper club included in his building. I don't know. I don't know. Welcome to Pedophile Island. Another one. And I had a nice dinner with him, but I just was not interested. It all just creeped me out and made me scared. It made me feel like I wouldn't be able to say no. And since I have already said no and was raped anyways repeatedly, I wasn't about to sign myself up for a situation where I didn't think I'd have any rights to say no, no matter how expensive your yacht, your condo, whatever. It just wasn't enough. Yeah, so Lisa tried to entice me with a Balenciaga bag that I researched. It was $25. She got it at the department store because I told her she could give me the Balenciaga bag she had. And she was like, this is $50,000. She's like, you have to earn this. And I said, no, I don't. I have to earn a bag. It's like, you can either give it to me or I don't want to earn it. So that's what she was trying to entice me to leave my upcoming marriage. She was like, you really want to marry him? He seems poor. I was like, well, his mom is, and we'll help her out a little bit. And he already does. And he seems like a good guy and whatever. I'm not a great assessment of character, come to find out. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Let's Be Frank. This was the Epstein, Maxwell, Trump model prostitution matchmaking party I ended up at in 2001 that a human trafficker that I met brought me to. And this isn't the end of my stories. I mean, there's more. So see you on another episode. And thank you so much for joining me. Take care.
If you'd like to work closely with me, you can opt in the show notes to an email sequence that will go right out to you with my complimentary 5-day manifesting mastery course. There I teach you the basics of all things manifesting and how we're always manifesting and why it would behoove us to know what we're doing.